Hey there, welcome to the Mental Perk podcast. I'm Carla Hutcherson, licensed professional counselor.
And I'm Brandy Mock, entrepreneur, author, and community leader. And we're here to talk about
real people, real issues, and real talk.
Welcome back to Mental Perk podcast. Today we have an amazing guest, McKinley Shultz. She has been bartending for the last 5 years. She has a bachelor's degree and also works for the healthcare recruiting firm during the day, and she works the Mucky Duck.
The Mucky Duck.
Mucky Duck. We're so glad to have you.
Good to be here.
So, McKinley, tell us a little bit about what made you decide to be a bartender in the nighttime.
Yeah, so I was currently, at the time, I was getting into my bachelor's degree and going into my first year of my associates at the time, and really wanted a job that was going to be able to let me go to classes during the day, but then allow me to work at night. And it's given me a lot of networking opportunities, as well as just allowing me to have that work-life balance of having that schedule between school and working full-time as well. I did move out at a pretty young age, so I've been on my own since I was 18. And it's just allowed me to build those connections, as well as just reach out to other people. But yeah, overall, I mean, it's been a wonderful experience, bartending. I really got into it just because it was really quick, fast money. And I really liked the communication aspect of it, being able to build those relationships with those certain people. And so that was really the main reason. And ever since then, it's kind of got me hooked.
Ooh, what are your top 3 favorite things about being a bartender?
I would say my number one thing are the people. For the most part.
Give or take a few. Yeah.
I really enjoy the relationship that I've established with my regulars. Not only do I know, what kind of drinks they like, what beer or something like that, but I know what's going on in their lives. And I like to keep updated of how is your work going? How is your family? And I kind of get to watch these people grow. I start off with people who maybe they're single when they first come into the bar, and 5 years later now they have a wife and kids, and you kind of get to see them grow, and it's really, really good. The second thing I do like the nightlife. I like the busy aspect, the always moving around, and kind of just the fast pace of it all. And I would say my third favorite thing would be the flexibility that it gives me. That would be my third favorite thing, is the fact that you are able to work those late nights, but then also have like free time during the day. And so you're able to still kind of maintain a normal life as much as possible.
So what is your favorite drink to make?
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy making craft cocktails. So my personal favorite beverage is a whiskey sour, but more on the traditional side with the egg white. So I like a little bit of those. So
does it make it all like foamy?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are turned off when they originally.
Can you order it like you do a Frappuccino, no foam?
Yeah, you can. You can order it on the rocks. Yes, ma'am.
It's just, isn't that egg white just meringue anyway, right?
Yeah.
So if you eat a pie.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't. So there you go.
Well, the funny thing is, in a study, there's like 16% of customers they're coming in more to talk about their personal problems than they are to get a drink.
Oh yeah, we have some individuals who just, simply come in and they don't drink alcohol at all. I have a guy who comes in, he just drinks club soda, and he really just wants to talk to somebody. And you kind of know as a bartender as well, based off of how somebody acts or how they sit down, if they're really looking for that social interaction.
Yeah.
There are some individuals who come into the bar and they're there to just drink, and they're there to kind of just get away from the world. But then there are those individuals who really seek out that social aspect and why they come to the bar. And I think that's a wonderful thing, because as a bartender, I try to build those personal connections. I'm not here to just give you a drink. I want to know about you. I want to know. And so my big thing is if, you come into my bar, I will try to remember you as best as possible. I might not exactly remember your name, but the next time you come in, the drink that you ordered the last time will be in my head, and I'll have it sitting in front of you before you sit down.
Wow, that's a good
amazing.
Bartender.
Right.
So you can go ahead and share your drink now, Carla.
I think it's just building that rapport and that connection of almost making them feel as if they're special, and they are special, you know, and they're special to me, and so I want them to feel that way, and I want them to be able to come back and know that it's an open space. And even though I'm just your bartender, I kind of sometimes we joke in the bartender community that we're kind of like part-time therapists a little bit, you know, because people will just spill to you. It's amazing what they come up with.
Well, it's like, you know, one of the most alluring traits of a bartender is they're just good listeners. I mean, when y'all take the job, do your bosses talk to you about that? Does their training on being a listener and how to do that?
Yeah, so I actually had a bar manager, one of my very first ones, and it was kind of one of those thoughts that just replays in my head over and over again. He told me that these people come in and they can, you know, there's many bars, you know, in the DFW area, and you know, they all serve the same thing or, you know, similar food and drinks. And so the real reason that people are coming in is for you. And so it's almost like kind of self-marketing in a way of, you know, how can I provide these people that great experience? And so I think that it's one of those things that you just have to, you know, build that communication with these people and just like allow them to open up, and then as well as me opening up as well. But I try to be more on like the listening aspect and understand what's going on with them, you know.
What about advice? Because some of these people are coming to you with some really huge issues. Like, I mean, and they're drinking, so, you know, they're more open to say things that they might not say normally. And there's some really big issues out there. How do you decide, do I give advice? Do I just listen? Do I advise them to go see somebody else?
Right. I would say there's a couple of, you know, big topic issues that I try to kind of keep out. Politics and religion are number one. You know, I think that everyone is open to their own views and everything like that. But when it comes to that social setting, that's not the place nor the time to talk about it, especially
alcohol.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. And people can get a little riled up in that sense. And so I try to keep those topics out. When it comes to like personal advice, if somebody's actually like, you know, asking me about things or what's going on, I'll try to give them somewhat of a perspective. But if it's a case where I think that it's like a more severe feeling of not just, hey, I had a bad day, but like, hey, I really have some stuff going on. That's when, you know, I might give them advice of, you know, maybe you should go talk to somebody or, you know, maybe you should reach out to things in your community to kind of figure out exactly what you're feeling and who the right person is to talk to about it.
Now, I know you see this probably because of the frequency, but do you ever notice that whenever you're talking about this and you see someone come in and they're just spilling, I call it liquid courage, you know, that liquid courage kicks in and they're just spilling stuff out. Have you ever seen one that's spilled out the liquid courage, they're struggling, and you're like, hey, maybe you should go talk to someone, and then you don't see them for a while? I mean, do you have any of those stories in your head that would be like, hey, now you're concerned?
Right.
I mean, how connected do you get with these people to where it's not too personal and you put yourself in a position to where you're being too vulnerable? I mean, how do you make that decision on that?
I would say and it's funny that you say that because I do have a specific individual in mind, and it was, you know, a gentleman, and he would come in and, you know, he's a very, you know, quiet and quaint individual, very much kept to himself. But there were moments where you could see he was kind of battling internally. You would look at him and you could see on his face that, you know, he wasn't doing okay. And there were moments, you know, as a bartender, I don't want to press you too much because as to two, I don't want you to kind of, in a sense, like, I don't want to break you down. I don't want to highlight it so much to where you think, oh my goodness, I'm showing it. And so I would just, you know, I try to do little things throughout, like while he was there to kind of, you know, make him feel at home. Hey, is everything okay? Can I do anything for you? You know, hey, how is your day? And really making that eye contact as well, knowing that I'm sincere and I'm not just passing by him, you know, at the bar top and being, hey, are you okay? You know, it was more coming from that sense of concern. And actually, you do get those people who come in and, you know, they'll share these crazy stories or, you know, they're battling something in their life and you don't see them for a while and they pop into your head and, you know, you wonder how they're doing and you really hope that they're doing well. And so that's the difficult part is knowing how to have that balance of, you know, talking to them and building those relationships, but also being able to understand that maybe they don't exactly want to share everything that day. And sometimes it's a process, you know, sometimes it's.
And this cool idea just came in my head because we do trainings on suicide prevention and depression. And I was just thinking, we teach people that, their words matter and how just being kind or polite to somebody, you don't know what that person's day has been like. And they come into the bar and they're probably stressed or something's going on. You don't even know what it is. Right. But just your words, just saying hello, making them feel important can actually save lives, because many times we find people who have had suicidal ideations or suicidal thoughts, they said if one person would have just showed me I mattered, then, I wouldn't have made that attempt, Right. So the fact that your words could actually save a life.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking
same
about
thing,
that.
Yeah. You say that and it's true, because we've had many times when we've had that personal interaction and people come to us and go, I would not be alive had you not said, hey, I want you to know we appreciate you. As an individual. So it's so true. You don't even think about that. And then on top of that, they're drinking.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, it's one of those things where they're totally open to being.
Yeah. The amount of times that I've seen, just the effects of alcohol on your emotions and how much it heightens. You can go from being, happy when you first come in to
crying.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's
I've been there.
Sometimes it's that dramatic shift.
Right. It's emotional drinking, I'm telling you.
Right. Yeah. But with those certain people, it's hard to understand exactly like what is going on until you actually build those relationships and get to talk to them about it. And so that's why I like that I've been at my bar for so long, and the aspect of, everybody kind of lives around the bar. So we're almost as if like a small community. Yeah. And so I see these people almost every day. And so I get to kind of understand and build that rapport with them to where they actually feel as if they're, they can be open and tell me the things that are going on. So,
I think it's important that you can really affect someone's mental health just by letting them know you care and having that human contact and that touch that you do with those words. And so I think that's so important. But we also know that mental health issues can be a struggle for bartenders, right? Because it is a high stress job. It is, you're constantly on your feet. You're having to deal with a lot. So tell me a little bit about what you know about that, or do you know other people that you work with who, or in the industry that might have struggled with mental health?
Yeah, I think it is something like in the bartending community that isn't really talked about a lot. I think that a lot of bartenders, just because of we're kind of just go-getters, we're always trying to work really hard, and we kind of focus on our guests and our regulars a lot more than like ourselves in that situation. And so, but when you talk to other bartenders, from my experience personally and my own personal experience, I've, battled with mental health in regards to, my occupation with, I miss out on family events. It's a large impact for my family. It took them a long time to understand that, I work Friday, Saturday nights. It's equivalent to me asking you to take off a Tuesday afternoon, almost, once a month or something like that. And so, you sometimes have individuals who will, I don't want to use the word guilt trip, but we never see you, or, you always work weekends. And it's like, well, this is the career path that I've chosen for my life currently. And I'm happy doing it, but it kind of allows you to get in a little bit of a headspace of, I miss my family. I want to be able to experience those things kind of later in the evening. And also to being in an atmosphere where everyone around you is having fun. And I have fun while I'm working. Don't get me wrong, but
they're
it's
with
work.
people they know, they're with family, and you're not.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And so you kind of look around and you're like, oh, they're out with their friends on a Saturday night. They're having a lot of fun, and I'm here, working. And so sometimes you kind of get that mental block of, I'm a little, sad about it.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah. And what do you do? So I know you've got these stories where people confide in you, but we also know there can be some people that come into the bar that are just a little, I don't know, should I say creepy?
Yeah.
Off, creepy. They make crickets, whatever. They make you feel uncomfortable as a bartender. Right. You're beautiful. I mean, guys, if you saw her, you'll get to see her, but she's beautiful and she's smart and she's funny. And so all of that shows to someone that's drinking. So how do you, McKinley, keep yourself from feeling like someone's crossed a line, or if they do cross a line, how do you process that? Do you ever get to where you're kind of scared to go home, or you're scared to walk into the parking lot because someone's come in that's a little off to you?
Right. It's funny that you bring that up because I've actually had a situation similar to that where not at my current work where I work at now. I feel like I'm a very safe environment currently. But I did work at a place before where I had an individual who thought it was okay to wait in the parking lot for me to get off of work at 1 o'clock in the morning. And so, you're a single woman walking to your car alone. It's pitch black and you just see an individual standing in the parking lot by your car.
Yeah.
And I've been waiting for you.
Oof.
As
That's
if
scary.
I was expecting it. And
Now, is he drunk at this point, or is he sober?
No, he's sober.
Which is a little creepier to
right.
me.
And I think sometimes people get the idea of, I don't know if some people take friendliness as kind of,
They don't know the
intuition.
difference.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so that's when you just really have to, be stern and firm and say, this is not okay. I feel unsafe. And always now I make sure that I have an individual walk me to my car.
Good.
To make sure that I'm safe in that aspect. Yeah.
So I'm just curious, how did they respond whenever you responded to them? Did you see them again, or was it like...
No. Never
Okay.
saw them again.
You
You
stood your ground.
Yeah, it was a random individual. It wasn't somebody that I had
was a
seen
regular.
before. Right, yeah.
Oof.
Uh-huh.
That is really
That's
scary.
stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another thing I do is I actually go by a different name when I'm working.
I could say something that came to my mind. I'm not going to.
But yeah, just because, and also too, I'm not on any social media. I deleted all social media 4 years ago. I thought it was giving me a really unrealistic expectation about my life. And where I should be, and it was more about where I wanted to be individually, and I didn't want to see anybody's outside perspective of where they're at. This girl's on a yacht drinking champagne, but I don't know how she really is.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's all about what you want people to perceive about your life, and so I try to kind of limit my access to that to kind of
Keep you grounded.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and just develop myself personally how I want to, and not have the influence of other people. And so that's another really big thing is I think people can't find me,
Right.
which is kind of nice. When I did have social media, I would have people who would just randomly look me up and try to follow me and stuff, and I think that's another reason why I took off, all my social media was I didn't really want these individuals, certain individuals I'm okay with, but I don't want everyone kind of knowing everything in my life.
That would make me feel like I just could never, I'd always have to be looking behind my back because
Right.
you don't know,
Right.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point of view, and I think that's great.
Smart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really smart. What about substance use by the bartenders? Do you feel like because they're around alcohol all the time that we see them get used to having alcohol all the time?
Yeah, I would definitely say in some situations there are individuals who, rely on alcohol in this industry.
Yeah.
And it's a thing that's not really talked about. I think unless you really have like a personal relationship with like a coworker or something like that, you don't really it's kind of one of those things where you're in that atmosphere and it's just, everyone's doing it, so I'm going to tag along and I'm going to do it. I personally have made the choice that I don't drink, at my location or anything like that. I tend to, and I think my view is I've kind of gone the opposite way. So I see these individuals drinking, and I've kind of seen what has happened in their life, and I've had some personal experiences with alcoholism, not me, but, within relationships in my life, and I think that has drawn me to not want to drink, and not want to get that way. But there are definitely individuals that, they kind of go into that. I call it the black hole of bartending.
the
where
black hole of bartending.
I like that.
I do too.
Yeah, where you're just constant. Well, it's a constant cycle too. You're in that nightlife, and so I think, especially when you get into those like high volume places, not necessarily like the location I work at, but like other places where it's really loud
I see
and
bartenders
lively.
taking shots with
Right.
people. I'm
Yeah.
like, how does that keep you going? Like,
Right.
is that normal? Is that, I don't know. I'm not a big drinker, so.
Well, I would say that some bars tell you can't do that, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I personally believe that like you just shouldn't.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Right. And And also, I mean, it opens you up for just so much liability as an individual and, as an
company.
establishment.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just, but I think a lot of times it's people trying to get other people involved of, hey, I'm trying to build this relationship with you, so we're going to do it through taking a shot together.
Yeah. You're at a bar. So.
Right. Right. As if that's something that will
bond you.
Right. And it doesn't.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of what they're used to. It's kind of like when you would go and shake somebody's hand. You know, when you're in a bar, taking a shot is equivalent to shaking somebody's hand and meeting them for the first time. And so, Yeah,
that's very interesting. And I'm sure that it's harder to detect the warning signs of someone who's abusing alcohol in the industry as well.
Right.
Because they just kind of play it off, and the environment just kind of covers it up.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
Well, I'm really interested about COVID, because you're in the service industry, and COVID just changed the world and really, really messed with that industry, you know. So a lot of people had many, many mental health issues following that, the anxiety, the depression, the stress, all of that was just so affected by it.
Lack of income.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, especially in the industry, there were a lot of people who, got denied unemployment and were just living off of savings. I was one of those individuals where I didn't, during COVID, because
you didn't really lose your job, so it's
right. Yeah, so they technically, the company I was with at the time laid us off technically so that we could, file unemployment through that because of the COVID relief programs and things. But it was, then you have, your regulars who, the second that they come back, they've been in this kind of funk of, the COVID pandemic and everything. And really kind of people had to retrain themselves of how to be in public again, if I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's very true. People had to learn how to drive again, and they had to learn how to socialize again, right?
So, I would definitely say after COVID, the dynamic between bartenders and regulars, I feel like heightened. I feel like I've experienced a lot more individuals who were in a lower portion of their life after COVID than I experienced pre-COVID.
You think they drink more? Did they drink more, you think? Or was it you saw the same thing, but it was just you saw them down more? Right.
Yeah. I think their overall attitudes were just a little bit more in a funk than before.
Wow.
Yeah. It just, we didn't really know how to manage a pandemic. Nobody had the experience of doing that. And so there's so many psychological effects that are showing up now in all different industries. And I can imagine that this one is really affected. Some of the things that I read about the stresses of being a bartender were verbal abuse by guests, toxic environments, not having hours to socialize yourself. Many times you don't have health insurance with that job.
Right.
Or, there's financial uncertainty because you don't know how much you're going to make on a night.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those things where, you go in and, I could make, $200 or I could make, this amount of money. Or, there are days where you go in and there's two other bartenders on and we're slow and they'll just send you home, or you go home after an hour or two. And so it's not really that set schedule in your mind. Of course, the days of the week that you're going to work, but you're right. It's uncertain of how much money am I going to pull in this week. And without, your health insurance and everything, you have all of the outside factors of, I have to go out and, do those things on my own. It's not provided through the company. So,
yeah, well, tell us a little bit about what do you do when you have an unruly guest or they're being inappropriate or, especially if you're trying to maintain the environment so that other people aren't affected.
Right, absolutely. I think one of the big things is, and I've had to kind of help myself do this when I'm a very over-friendly person. I'm very happy. I'm very bubbly when I come to work. I'm there to be happy. I don't want to come into my job with a negative mindset. And so I'm just, smiling ear to ear. That's what my regulars say. They're like, I don't ever see you not smile. And I'm like, well, I love to be here. I love you guys and I enjoy what I'm doing. So I'm not, and also too, I try not to bring anything from my outside life into the bar because I had a bar manager tell me, these people don't really care.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. They're here to, to be in this social environment and they don't want to look at you and you kind of be a Debbie Downer. I don't mean to say it like that, but I try to just really be, when they get to that point to where they are being toxic or negative or just, sometimes they can get violent or rude, verbally. I try to just be stern and just, simply look at them and say, this is not okay. You cannot treat people like this. And normally I will just print their tab and give it to them and say, I think we need to take a break this evening. I think it's time for you to go home. And then I also, too, on the weekends, I have a 6'7" door guy. So he normally...
that always helps.
Yeah, so...
So
normally if my little old self cannot get them to leave, I just call him over and, they kind of turn around and, okay, I'm leaving.
Yeah. But are there situations where the 6'7" tall guy's not there and you have felt that you were literally in a position that might not be so safe for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been situations.
Obviously, the guy outside waiting for you outside your car.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. I think in those situations, it's really important to just be aware of what's going on, and also too having those relationships with the regulars and having that family aspect. They look out for me as well.
Yeah,
so they want to make sure that I'm safe. I have regulars who will call and say, "Are you okay? Do you need me to stay with you?"
Wow, that's awesome.
Or do you need help? Or if this individual is acting unruly, they'll have my back and say, "Hey, that's not okay." For the most part, people pretty much listen to me, and then the second you threaten to call the police or something like that and get that involved, normally these individuals will listen and, and just kind of leave on their own rapport. Yeah.
Yeah. Just piggybacking off what you said a while ago, you go to work and you try to have this big smile and be really engaging.
Right.
Yeah. Then you have to turn it just like that.
Right.
If you have a customer who's being unruly, you've got to switch from that smiling
to
engaging person
stern.
to serious stern. And that has to be a hard switch.
Oh yeah. It's super hard. And I try to,
smiling with crazy eyes.
Right,
Is that what you do?
Right, yeah. And also, too, you don't want other people to be like, because they don't understand exactly what's going on with that situation.
Yeah.
They might not know, what that guy said under his breath, or, he was making, inappropriate comments to you. So they might not know the context of the situation. And then all of a sudden I'm, kicking this guy out, and they're kind of confused of, she was so happy and bubbly.
Like, what do we need to know?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so I think that's one of the things I just kind of have to explain, like, I apologize, he had made, an inappropriate comment and I had asked him to leave. And so it's...
And they're like, oh, we got you, girl.
Yeah,
we got you.
Yeah, and most of the time they understand. They're like, oh, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, I love the fact that you talked about a little bit of things that you've done to manage your own self-care, because I think it's really important in the service industry that we focus on self-care because of the crazy hours and the missing the holidays and all the stresses that you guys go through. And you were talking about, number one, you limit your social media. You kind of limited that to keep the stress out of your life. What are some other things that you do about building healthy coping skills and managing your own mental health so that you are at your best for all of your responsibilities?
Yeah, so one of the main things, and I actually took it up probably about 3 to 4 months ago, I read a women's daily devotional. And so that has really been beneficial to me of, just understanding, building my relationship with God, as well as understanding, my own perspective of things and taking into realization what's going on in my life and just understanding and building that rapport with Him. And then I also journal a lot. I physically write down in a journal, and then I also keep a journals app on my phone, where sometimes if I'm just feeling, very, my head is kind of, stressed out, I've got, finals coming up or things like that, I kind of try to write things out so that I can go back and reread it and reflect of exactly how was I feeling in that moment and what can I do to help myself and step back and analyze the situation to make it better and kind of learn as you're going on. It's kind of like a self-taught book of, I did this in this situation, this was the outcome, or this is how I felt after I handled that situation. How can I handle it better in the future? Or, this worked in the past, so I'm going to continue doing those. And then really talking with my family and my friends too, reaching out to them and allowing them to, understand what I'm going through. I tried to not shut down. If I need somebody to talk to, number one, I always call my mom. Always. And there's one day she jokes, I'll call her, hi, how are you? I'm having a good day. And then there's some days where she's like, okay, I know you need to talk. I need this. I know that this is one of those phone calls.
We love those mamas,
don't
absolutely.
we?
We love those mamas.
I would not be where I am today without that woman. Yeah. I mean, I just love her so much. And so just feeling like I can reach out to people and have those conversations is really important to me.
I think that's amazing that you're so put together with that, because a lot of people would not have articulated as good as you did. But it's also great to know that bartenders have those options.
Right.
They don't realize it. Yeah.
I mean, we really want to promote healthy
self-care.
Selfie health. healthy self-care, really, because it's so important for people, especially in high-stress jobs, to realize the importance of taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, you're working late hours, making sure you're getting enough sleep and doing all the things that you need to do, because it does affect your mood and it does affect your performance.
Right. Yeah. I think sometimes people in this industry, it's almost like a revolving door of I'm going to work late nights, I'm going to sleep all day, and then just kind of repeat that cycle. And I try to break that cycle by, I do work a day job during the day, so I do have lack of sleep. I probably sleep
I bet you do.
5 hours a night is normally like my good.
That's hard. That's so hard.
But currently where I'm at in my life, I like my other job as well, and I like that opportunity. And I'm in school full time as well during the day.
Busy girl.
And so
So busy.
But I try to keep that balance, of just being able to work and do both, but then also understanding what's going on in my environment and listening to your body is a really big thing too. But I think a lot of those bartenders, they'll get in that cycle of, I'm just going to work, I'm going to sleep all day. And I try to, I'm going to wake up, even if it's just to go to the grocery store.
Yeah. Get out and do something different.
I mean, if I just need to get like Granny Smith apples, I mean, or anything, just getting out and, or waking up and, drinking my cup of coffee and sitting on my porch and just, having that kind of that normal cycle of a day. I try to kind of stay in I try to stay awake during the waking hour.
Not sleeping through the day, because that does drain you.
Well, because then you feel like you've lost your whole day.
Yeah.
And you have pretty much.
Yeah.
And then it goes through what you just said. It's very robotic. You're just going through the motions.
Yeah.
And a part of that, could that be, I'm asking the therapist here, a part of PTSD where you're just not processing everything? I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, and typically PTSD is going to come with some traumatic event of some sort,
right.
But this may be just building of depression, or it may be, some other issue where you're just not taking care of yourself, so it leads to triggering other mental health issues. And so I think it's really important to what you're doing, using the mindfulness in the morning, having that cup of coffee, being reflective on being present and in the moment. I think those are really healthy tools to use to start your day. So those are things that can help anybody with any kind of mental health disorder. Yeah, definitely.
So being a bartender, I'm sure, comes with plenty of laughs, right? So I want to hear some of your funny stories. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, McKinley, but what are some funny stories or some funny things you've seen? Because I know when people are drinking, they do some really crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah. I definitely think one of my favorite stories.
She's got a favorite.
Oh, yeah, I know. There's like one specific one that comes to mind. We do, very large events during the Oktoberfest. And so it's the giant German festival.
Oh, yes.
People have been drinking all day. And so majority of the time, once the festival's ended and they get to me, majority of these individuals, I'm like, you don't need any more.
You need water.
Right.
Lots of water.
Absolutely.
Water bong.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
You need some spacers.
Yeah.
We need spacers.
Right. Like, I'm just going to get the garden hose and start hosing y'all down, like in the bar.
They probably need to be washed off anyway.
Right,
Let's be
exactly.
real.
Yeah.
So funny.
But I had this, I'll never forget, and it's the one story that always comes to mind when people ask me about like a crazy bartending story. She, she was, probably the tiniest woman I've ever seen. She's so little. She's maybe under 5 foot,
oh my gosh.
4'10", 4'11". And she comes up to the bar and, she says, "Can I get a vodka cranberry?"
If you can see her face right now.
I love it. Yeah.
And so immediately, in my head, I'm like, "No, ma'am, you cannot." And I said, "No, ma'am." "But you can have a water." And she was like, "Oh." Almost as if I gave her like the worst news on the planet, And so I'm like, "Oh." And so I hand her water, and she takes, and her card had like fallen off of the thing. And I was like, "No, ma'am, you can have a water." She had been at the festival all day. I was like, "You don't need any more." You know? And she goes down to, pick up her debit card and just does a full somersault. I mean, just like rolls, like a little roly-poly.
Are you like bending over the bar going, how far and fast is she going?
Well, here's the thing. I couldn't see her over the bar.
She's so small.
Yeah. So then she just pops back up. And I'm still standing there like, hi. And I'll never, and we kind of quote this like with my other, my old coworker as a joke, like when we go out and stuff like that. She pops back up and she has her debit card in her hand and she goes, but I have an Amex. And I just looked at her, I was like, I don't know what that means.
The water's free.
Right, yeah. I'm not even going to charge you. Like, you could just take the cup at this point. I don't even care.
In fact, I should charge you for falling on the floor like you just did.
Yeah. Right. Charge you a fee, a rolling fee. Yeah.
I love it so much.
Oh, yeah.
You have to laugh so much at your job.
Oh, yeah. We had one lady who, like, the Steins.
Yes.
During Oktoberfest.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she was just, like, angry. And she was like, I'm gonna. And, like, threatening to, like, hit people upside the head with a sign. And I was like, please don't do that. I was like, you need to go. She's like, okay.
Or how about you give me your cup?
Yeah.
Give me your Stein.
Right.
Yeah, you don't need to behold that. That's a weapon for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Why do you let these people carry these things around?
Yeah.
I mean, if you've never seen a Stein, they're pretty heavy. They're like,
I mean, they're huge.
Yes.
And they're
that's
like,
crazy.
yeah, and they're expensive too. $100.
Well, she didn't care. Was
Yeah.
this the one that didn't have her Amex card? Or?
Yeah, probably.
She's like, I got a MasterCard.
Yeah. I bought this Stein with my Visa.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is good stuff.
Yeah.
But you have been a pleasure
have.
on the show.
you,
And we
guys.
just
Thank
love
you.
hearing from
We
your
do.
perspective. Yeah, we have a
fun.
heart for our service industry workers.
We
You guys
do.
take so much, but you make people's lives so much better.
So what's your advice you'd give other bartenders in closing?
Oh, my advice to other bartenders would just be stay positive, continue building those relationships with your customers, and overall have fun.
Yeah.
That's why we're here, is to have fun.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, McKinley.
Yes.
We loved having you, and
We
I
did.
know our audience will love hearing your stories.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much.
If you or anyone you know is struggling with mental health issues, please reach out to talk to someone you trust. Get connected to a mental health professional who can help you find ways to cope and ultimately feel better. If you are having suicidal or self-harm thoughts or thoughts of hurting another person, please go to the nearest ER, call 911, or contact the National Suicide Hotline at 988. Thank you for tuning in to Mental Perk. We hope our talk today highlighted real people working through real issues based on mental health. Our goal at Mental Perk is to make sure every one of you knows you're worthy. We're in this together.